All right, so again, we're talking about, we're going to have some more examples of basic percent. So to solve basic percent equations, number one is on the left. Basic percent equation given by the textbook is percent times the base equals the amount. The percent there, percent here has to be a, a mathematical percent. So 50% would have to be converted into 0.5 here. Over here, we could also use this black or green number 2 or number 3 equation or setup. Is to of as percent is to 100. The percent here is just a descriptive percent. 50% would be 50 here. Same thing over here. Part is to whole as to percent is, or sorry, equals percent to 100. So either one of the 2 or 3 is a good approach as well. Let's do another couple examples. Before we get to the examples, we're going to say, let's take a look at special percentages. 33 and a third percent is 1/3 because 1 divided by 3 is 0.333, etc. And that makes a percent of 33 and 1/3%. 2/3 is 2 out of 3 is, or 2/3, 0.666, etc. percent, or 66 and 2/3 percent. So these are all just specials. 1 out of 6 and 2 and 5 out of 6, 16 and 2/3 percent, 83 and 1/3 percent as well. So let's take a look at this and say 12 is 33 and a third percent of what number? 12 is 1/3 of what number? I'm going to translate that sentence just into a sentence. 12 is 1/3 of x. So now I've got my idea of my equation. I can divide here by 1/3, but we can also multiply by the reciprocal to kind of get rid of that coefficient of 1/3. And if we're multiplying by 3 over 1 on the right side, we've got to multiply by 3 over 1 on the left side. On the left side, it becomes 12 times 3, 36, equals, these cancel out, just x. We can also set up the is to of as percent is to 100, and here's just an example. Of what number? Of, well, let's see, let's translate this. 33 and a third percent, we could put 33 and 1/3 right here. As to 100, is to of, 12 is of what number? X. Cross multiply, 12 times 100 divided by 33.3 equals my x. It'd be, again, 36. X equals 36. If we're going to cross multiply, 1200 equals 33 and a third x. Divide by 33 and a third, or 33.333, and you get my x equals 36. So there's an example of using some of the special percentages that might jump out and make it easier to use. Let's go to an example here again. Here's data on the table, number of households in millions that downloaded music files for a 3-month period in a recent year. Ours is definitely one of them. So there's the month, April, May, June. Here's the number of downloads, 14.5, 12.7, 10.4. So here's our question. For the 3-month period, what percent of the files were downloaded in May? Let's see, round to the nearest percent. Let's see, what percent in May were downloaded? You could also rephrase it, because we've got to kind of rephrase this as something that we can kind of use. Let's see, another way to maybe rephrase it would be May is what percent of total, right? So what percent of the files were downloaded in May of the total? So May is what percent of the total? So let's go up here. May is 12.7 is what percent, x percent of the total. What's the total? Well, they don't really give us a total, so we've got to find a total. It's kind of not given to us. So the total would be 14.5 plus 12.7 plus 10.4. So we just add those up. 14.5 plus 12.7 plus 10.4 equals 37.6. There's our total. Total goes down here, 37.6. I'm going to use my is to of as percent is to 100. is the 12.7. 12.7 is what percent? We don't know. Of 100, of 37.6, of goes right down here, 37.6. Cross multiply to get 12.7 times 100 equals 37.6 times x. And now we just solve. Divide by 37.6, divide by 37.6. And I got my x equal to 12.7 times 100 divided by 37.6. I'm going to guess it's, well, the answer that I got, 33 point, let's see, round to the nearest percent, 33.7, or we could say that it's going to be 34%, because it's round to the nearest percent. There's our answer, 34%. And May, right here, is about a third of all this. 12.7 is about a third of 37. 12 is about a third of 36. And that's pretty close to 34%, so well, sounds pretty good to me. We're off on the right track. All right, let's see if we can go down. Let's do another example here. According to Wikipedia, which is always true, 162.9 million people in the United States watch Super Bowl XLV. What percent of the U.S. population watched that Super Bowl? Use a figure of 310 million for the U.S. population. All right, let's see. Rephrase it, round to the nearest tenth. All right, rephrase this. What? Let's see. What percent is 162.9 of 310 million? We're talking about millions here. We're talking about millions here, but we can just kind of use. We can use 162.9 million, or we can just use 162.9 and be done. So what percent is 162.9 of 310, or 162.9 is what percent of 310? Either way you rephrase it, it's going to be the same. We can use the P times the B equals A, or we can use the is to of as percent is to 100. Here's my is to of as percent is to 100. I'm going to use the black to start with. Is to of as percent is to 100. Is would be 162.9 of 310 equals percent to 100. Cross multiply 162.9 times 100, decimal point multiplication equals 310 times x. I'll put an x up here just so we know we're solving for that. Now we can just solve for that. 162.9 times 100 divided by 310 equals, I'm going to say it's about half. Oops, hang on a second. That's better. And I solve for x. I've got x equals, black please, x equals, thank you, 52.548 is what I got. 548, rounding to the nearest tenth, so I'm going to say it's 52.5 because 4 tells me this one does not go up. We didn't quite get to half of that, so there's my percent, 52.5%. If we go to the blue, we can say PBA, P times B equals A. Percent, we don't know. We'll call it X times the base, 310. Base is always the of part of 310 equals my amount, 162.9. A little more straightforward over here, but you got to think a little bit more about what numbers go where. X equals 162.9 divided by 310 equals 0.52548 ... And that is our percent in terms of a number. In terms of a percent, we've got to take our number and multiply by 100%. Percent equals 52.548 ... We're rounding to the nearest tenth, 52.5%, just like over in the black on the right side. Same answer, different approaches.